Hi, everyone. For Division 6, I'm going over Chapter 37, Agenda Setting Theory. This theory basically says that the media doesn't necessarily tell us what to think, but it does tell us, what to think about. Kind of, in other words, that the topics that get the most coverage in the media become the topics that people start, paying attention to more, or even if there are bigger and more important issues, kind of getting ignored in that. This kind of reminds me of a time when I was working as a territory manager covering West Texas and Eastern New Mexico. We were really dealing with some major supply chain issues at the time. How can we create some kind of program to help dealers stock more parts out of, our Dallas RDC, so that we can better serve the customers in that region. The plan really kind of made sense internally, but the focus kept drifting toward the few, surface level issues like delays from one specific vendor, because those are the things that were getting talked about the most in meetings, or even, emails or phone calls, or, the other communications that we had going on. Some of the real issue was, the overall stocking strategy, but since the leadership team kept spotlighting that one vendor, it became the real problem in everyone's mind. It was kind of frustrating because the real problem wasn't getting the attention it needed. I really kind of saw firsthand how much influence that kind of internal agenda setting, can have. This theory also made me think about how the media and how it can shape what we see and talk about. While the theory says media doesn't tell us what to think, it really kind of honestly feels like it does sometimes. It doesn't matter whether you're watching a left-leaning or right-leaning news station, or podcast. There's always really a clear spin on what they're talking about, and it becomes pretty obvious that the same story is being framed in completely different views. That's where agenda setting really overlaps with influence. It's not just kind of what we need to focus on, but how it can be presented. you know this theory is also another good reminder, for me and for other people, to really question where their attention is going, or even my attention is going, whether it's going to be work, news, or even social media. Just because it's getting the spotlight put on it, to say, it doesn't always make it I guess, make it seem like it's the most important issue or topic at that time. It really gotta kind of makes me more aware of how easy it is to kind of get caught up in a conversation that's really been handed to me, rather than asking whether it's actually worth my time and attention.